Hello, and welcome to the next episode of the Kink Tank. Today, with our esteemed guests, we'll be talking about pervertibles. And I remember the first time I heard this word, and I thought it was so clever. Pervertible. Yeah. Maybe it's because I'm into puns. So when you take like pervert and convertible, so it's convertible to perverted uses. And these are things in our homes, things that we find in stores, those lucky little finds that you are able to turn into toys and, sort of makeshift kink equipment. So that's really what we're talking about here. A lot of people kind of toys on a budget. That's what they like to call it because these are things that, of course, if you were to buy a riding crop in an adult shop, you'd end up paying a pretty penny for it. You buy a riding crop in a tack shop, you're gonna pay quite a bit less. And I suppose riding crop would be first pervertible. I don't think it was really meant to be used on humans, but we've perverted it for those uses. Um, so what other pervertibles are we talking about? I mean, clothespins, that's been perverted. That's not what
Yeah.
they were originally designed for. Um, are there some other ones that you guys enjoy? Um, I know
Well, how
I have one in my toy bag. It's a cutting board, and they make it in a nice sort of rectangular shape with a little handle, I guess, so that you can hang it up on something. But it's
it's
the
like a
perfect
cheese board.
handle. It's a cheese board. It's like the perfect paddle, and it's really well made, actually.
Hmm.
Well, if you count riding crops as a convertible, even though you're still using them to hit something, how
Yeah.
about rope?
Yeah. Well, rope, I guess I was thinking more along the lines of bull whips, things like that. Like those were actually used for a different purpose than
Hmm.
we use them for now. Rope, I guess rope. I mean, because rope is used in a lot of like non-kinky ways.
Absolutely.
When we talk about pervertibles, I think we always end up devolving into this conversation of where to go. And people always say the same things. The Dollar Tree is like a mecca for random shit that you can turn into a pervertible. And then any hardware store, particularly like the big ones like Lowe's and Home Depot, because it's just a wonderland of things that you can find. I think that, so absolutely, like clothespins, the
Well, you
somebody
can
was just
find
telling
all
me.
manner of clippy clamps, not just like the
Oh,
regular wooden
all
clothespins.
kinds of
You
crazy
can
and hairy
choose,
looking clamps that
yes,
are meant
vice
for like
grips.
wrestling and stuff. Yeah, yeah, pointy things in general. A lot of like kids' toys unfortunately can be turned into convertibles like jacks. Um, you can use jacks like underneath rope, or you can have somebody like sit or stand on or close to them. Those are kind of scary and they're pretty inexpensive. I know there's someone that is around here who took a regular bra and then who took regular tacks that you would put into a cork board and stuck the tacks through the bra so that the pointy side was against the skin, and that is unpleasant and definitely a pervertible.
Yeah, and I'm thinking of, I mean, some other things. You were talking about like Home Depot and all this stuff. I mean, pervertibles to some people are like a craft. It's something that they're into. Like they make
It's
tack
challenging.
bras, right? So they like, oh, you know what I could do? I could take this thing and put it with this thing and make it something that like hurts or something that hurts really nicely or because I know the person that you're talking about and it's like, why don't we touch a violet wand to it and see what happens? You
Oh
know,
yeah, I was just asking her, and she was like, anything made of mylar is an awesome pervertible for the same reason. Take any household item, and that's like um, you can get those in the outdoor store, like keep warm blankets. They're very lightweight. They're very thin. They're practically weightless, and they keep you really warm. So you can find them in like emergency first aid kits and stuff. Those are conductive. It's
hmm
really fun to find stuff that's conductive.
yeah, birthday balloons are made out of mylar.
There you go.
A lot of them
Yep.
in the
The
stores.
cheap little
Any
blanket
like
that's hidden in your closet is.
Yeah, anything made of tinsel. So Christmas is a really good time because like any of that tinsel shiny foil stuff, that is all conductive.
right, for electricity and stuff. And of course, we're talking about like, I'm not so much talking about Home Depot and saying, well, you can have lumber and then fasteners and hinges and then build something. I mean, sure, but and maybe that's not what originally those fasteners and lumbers were, were designed to be used for. But that's the point. They're raw materials that people make whatever they want with them. So yeah, those home places are really great to find that kind of stuff if you want to make. I mean, whether it's like industrial glue, you want to like make your own pervertibles, but everything, pretty much anything in your kitchen utensil drawer is a pervertible. I mean, you got those little like rubber spatula scraper things. You've got wooden spoons. You've got all kinds of smacky, wacky
Slice waters.
things, fly swatters.
Spatulas, that was really
I
fun.
don't really consider that a pervertible. That was used by my mother.
That is still a pervertible.
It still is.
Yeah, I
all
guess.
of these things are in context. A spatula is also for preparing food, unless you're using it for an off-market reason.
Yeah.
So then it's a pervertible.
It's like that old Andy Cap cartoon where his wife's always like chasing him around with a rolling pin.
Right.
I almost bought one of those the other day.
Well, a rolling pin is a good pervertible too. I like to use a rolling pin, or things like rolling pins, whether it's like a using like a baseball bat, or I mean, it's a great muscle massager basically, and it can be really hurty too. Some of them that are like marble or different kind of material, you can make them really cold too before you touch somebody with them.
The freezer's a friend.
Yeah, I mean, all the things that we've mentioned so far, these are things that you can potentially put in your toy bag. Now, I've noticed that people that are really into pervertibles are really into pervertibles. They are constantly shopping and have this radar going on, and they find the coolest shit in the most unlikely places. Whether it's a yard sale, because even at a yard sale, it might be, the hazing paddle from their old fraternity or something. Yeah, I'll pay 50 cents for that. The dollar store, just walking through Walmart, just walking through any of these places. I mean, taking a reflector, one of those that you like stick in the ground with the reflector so the snowplow can see where it's going. Yeah, break that off. It's a cane.
We found stuff at antique stores, old not drumsticks, but they're springy like little rakes. We found those at antique stores, and they're hilarious and awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people use cat toys. People who are into pervertibles are constantly getting cat toys, because if you yank off the fuzzy thing at the end or whatever's on the end of the toy, you have a really flexible cane.
Yeah, pretty much.
Not fun.
I think that was the first one that I ever used, was the little twisty thing on your blinds. You take that off, and suddenly it's a weapon,
yeah.
And it's a fucking painful one at that. So you're having a scene, and maybe you have a toy bag, you got a couple of things, whatever, but you don't have to limit yourself. And these folks that are into pervertibles, that are really into, I love it, because they're always showing me the new thing that they found, and it's awesome. And I'll see them use it, and they're really excited about it, and then they'll like improve it or find something better, and their whole toy bag seems to be filled with this stuff that, and maybe some of it's single purpose, but it was a creative adventure for them, and it makes these toys special to them, which is really cool when you're looking through somebody's toy bag. Now, let's talk about a little bit of toy bag snobbery, because there is a bit of that shit going on.
Oh, yeah.
That people, when they look in your toy bag and you've got, clothespins and little clippy things and stuff, the people are like, oh, like, they haven't invested in their toy bag. Look, these are fine
those are so awesome.
Kangaroo skin floggers that I paid $400 for the pair, or like alligator, whatever. And I get that. I mean, as people are into this over a period of time, they tend to acquire these things, and they will invest in their tools, because it's becoming more of a part of what they do and more a part of their relationship. But especially somebody just starting out. You know, they pull out a flogger which is made out of rope. It's been bundled up rope and then tied off at the end, and then they've basically, you know, frayed the ends of it, and they smack that thing around, and it feels great, and it works well, and there's no reason why you shouldn't use that thing.
I have one sitting in my closet.
Yeah.
Paracord works great.
Paracord, and I'm just saying that there are, you know, I think some people are under the impression that there is a high cost of entry to this.
Yeah, and I disagree that like just because you're using pervertibles means that you're like new or that you're an amateur at this. Like a lot of people, it's kind of funny when you talk to some of these people, especially people who have these very expensive, you know, tools. They've obviously invested a lot in a very beautiful whip or some other kind of handmade toy, and then they've got like a pair of chopsticks from the takeout place. It looks like maybe they left it in their bag after they got, you know, delivery the other day, and then they've got like these other random things, and you can't really put them together. And that's not because they're an amateur, it's just that they found the best mix of things, and sometimes a pair of drumsticks works better than any of the fancy toy versions that you can get, or the thing that adjusts the blinds is a better cane than any of the ones that you actually spent real money on. So I never look at those and think, oh, that guy's an amateur, because I trust your ability to do something with them that is probably going to be interesting and cool.
And I think that they're fun and special to these folks that use these things. And there's a certain creative bulb that goes off in their head, and you can tell because they're really excited about it. And then, you know, the thing that they found or the thing that they made out of something, or you know, and I've found, like, as a drummer, I mean, I played drums when I was younger, and I'm just thinking of all these things I used to hit drums with, and I thought, well, why can't I hit people with these? And there's a wide variety of sticks and mallets for all kinds of instruments that all have different, you know, I keep a couple of bass drum beaters in my bag. They're just the ones that go like in the pedal on the drum kit, but they're wooden, because some people use a felt one, some people use a wooden. So they're two heavy wooden balls on sticks. You know, I can do something with that.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, they weren't really too terribly expensive either, because these are like normal things that musicians buy, and sometimes they're like drumsticks. They're like reeds for an oboe player. You know, you try around different ones that you like. You can buy a bundle of them for a few bucks. Paint sticks, that's another one that I see all the time. Perfect pervertible, and free at that.
Yep.
You know, you buy a gallon of paint, you get a couple of kinky toys along with it. And if you don't buy some paint, you can still grab a few out of there, and they'll look at you funny, and then you just kind of pretend like they didn't see you and walk away with a couple of little paint sticks.
I know I've gone to readers' things locally, and I ended up standing next to a booth where they were selling knives, and they kept looking at me weird because I was admiring the pretty knives.
So what kind of knife? This was a reader's thing?
Yeah.
So what would they be doing with knives?
Selling them.
Just because?
Mm-hmm.
Because readers want to buy knives too.
Well, a lot of authors have kinky shit in their books.
Okay.
So, you know, one of my favorite authors gives out a back scratcher that actually says, hey, do kinky shit with me, basically. That's not exactly the next phrase, but that's basically what she's telling you to do, because her books, the guy does that.
Mm-hmm. But I think that, you know, if you're sort of coming into it, or even if you've been into this for a while, I mean, I have acquired some pretty nice toys that I have spent a fair amount of money on. And, you know, every now and then there's that thing, like I'm at the music store and I'm like looking at the wire brushes. I think, Jamie, maybe that's what you were talking about. They're like drumsticks, but they're like a splayed bunch of wires.
Mm-hmm.
And,
exactly.
Yeah, they're brushes, and drummers use them all the time, especially the jazz guys. So, you know, I go and I look for the brush. They have 12 different kinds made out of different things, different thicknesses. Those bundled rods that you see everybody using.
Yep.
You know what I'm talking about? The bundled rods?
I have some of those.
Those started as a drumstick. Those were marketed by a company. They were called Hot Rods. And it was something else to hit your drum with that would make a different sound. And now they're in everybody's toy bags, and people don't realize that they weren't actually kinky to begin with. But
I
what
didn't
are
know that.
yeah, and I'm just thinking of some of the things. I mean, I've got the clothespins and I've got some vice grips, and of course, you go to the hardware section
Oh
and you
yeah.
can. I think dog collars probably qualify as pervertible. I mean, you're using them as collars, but you're not using them on
Oh, I
dogs.
love the tag making machines in the pet store. Can't even tell you how much I love that machine.
I wonder because a lot of people love that machine and they've gone and they've gotten a little bone-shaped tag that has their name, and it's a private thing because you can like type in whatever you
Yeah, it's
want.
And
self-service.
no one knows. Yeah.
It's a self-service thing, and I told some new people about this, and they're just like mind blown. Like, yes, we have to do that. And I just wonder if there are people in PetSmart and these other places that are like, they know. It's
Oh,
like
they do. They
because
do know.
they know that kinky people use it like probably even more than pet owners do.
I had before we were in the lifestyle, I had a friend who worked at a pet store, and she would say they come in and do the weirdest things. I'm like, yep.
hmm Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
sure
I
they're
think
gonna.
if you would win my affection forever if you brought me one of those. You can have them. They're in pretty colors. They're not
Yes.
very expensive.
I like the different shapes.
Some of them have rhinestones on them. Like, it's terrific.
We've had them with the Halloween themes. That's like my favorite ones to buy. I just tag stuff.
Well, can you guys think of any common pervertibles? I mean, I know that there are some people who kind of like it's like their thing. It's like anything that they pick up, they're like hitting themselves with it. Like, wow, that feels pretty good.
Spatulas, like
I'll
the spatulas you clean out your baking dishes with, or you mix your icing with. They're perfect, and they sell different shapes of those, and you can get animals. We've used a meat tenderizer, put it in the freezer. I don't know if that's come up yet. What else do we have that's weird?
ping pong paddles.
Oh, we love those.
And speaking of fly swatter, they have those electric fly swatters that a lot of people are fond of using.
Oh, the zappy ones.
They look like a little racquetball racket, and they have a 9-volt battery in the handle with a button, and when you hold the button down, it collects a charge. And I guess you're supposed to like swat a fly with it, and it's like a bug zapper, bzz, and then the bug's dead. But when you put it on someone's ass, they get a really intense shock, depending on how long you hold the button down. But yeah, those were all the rage there, and they were being sold at the kink booths at some of the events. So it's like, here's our selection of whips and floggers and paddles and all this other stuff, and here's this fly swatter that you could probably buy somewhere else. But
Cheaper, probably.
since you're here, why don't you just buy it from us? I think cupping sets kind of the same way.
Oh, yeah.
They're used in the same way that cupping sets were used in, um, days of yore in Asia, well, and maybe even currently. But we use them for a sort of different purpose or to affect a different result, I guess.
I don't know. I've gone to a doctor where they do cupping, and it's very similar results. So
it feels the same to you?
very similar, yes.
Does he whisper to you and say, like, yeah, take it, bitch?
No.
The dynamics are different.
Yes, but it's used the same way.
Yeah.
Well, right, it's
yeah,
used the same way.
Same. I think that you're talking about shot glasses, candle votive holders.
Yeah, but you also have to warn people if you're talking about doing that those can actually implode on you. Using something like that can actually implode on you.
Sure.
Yeah,
you
so
have
I
to
mean,
be
with
careful
pervertibles,
about
there's
what-
always a risk. I mean, you are using something for something.
Oh, yeah.
For. So you should take caution the first time you do it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that my UV glove that I use for fire play, they weren't
Yeah.
really thinking of that.
No safety guarantee on that one.
That's a pervertible that I have in my bag. And for those of you that don't know, you can. It's one of those oven mitts that's shaped like a hand, and it's so that you can reach in your oven, get a good grip, and it's all insulated. It's got like Kevlar threads in it or something like that. Dip it in alcohol, and you can set your hand on fire without burning yourself. So, yeah, that's something that I perverted that I saw somebody else use. I was like, yes, flaming hand spanking. That's what I want. Where can I get some of those?
That hurts.
We use flash cotton, and I'm not sure if its origins had any relation whatsoever to what we use it for. I think it started out in artillery.
I thought it was magic shows.
Magic shows, but the cotton is actually something you can buy from gun stores if you want to make your own.
Mm-hmm.
Then I don't know.
Yeah, that's awesome. Hair, you can use some mooses that are out there for fire play.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It definitely says don't light those on fire.
Keep away from flame. Yeah.
Keep away from flames or do it on purpose. We have grill brushes. Those are nice. And great back scratchers.
A grill brush. That's a good
yeah.
one. I like that.
Yeah, it's spiky, but it's an amazing back scratcher. I'm trying to think what else is in our kit that's weird.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not weird. We've gone to Home Depot and purchased a long threaded screw. It didn't have any ends. It's about 2 feet long, heavy, very thuddy, and a little bit abrasive. That's kind of cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's what I mean. You're the kind of person that walks into Home Depot, and of course they look at you with that knowing look too. Don't they?
Yeah.
Just like the folks at PetSmart.
No, they're just really handy. They do very odd crafts.
We have a local kitchen supply store, and I'm really bad because I don't think before I do. And I picked up one of those ice and batter things. I don't cook. I picked up and immediately hit my best friend on the arm. Keep in mind, she's not kinky. And I go, did that sting, or was it more of a thuddy sting? And how did that feel? And she just looks at me, and I'm like, well, that wasn't very discreet. Darn it.
You practice full contact baking.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you're in a competitive baking league, right?
Yeah. I know for a lot of people, they use the candles, the religious candles, and you can get them in Walmart or Kroger or any little store that sells, especially stores that sell Mexican goods, like straight from Mexico stuff. But a lot of times they have Our Lady of Guadalupe on them and other saints. Yeah, I like those. You can also get the voodoo version. And they come in pretty colors, and what's really cool about them, though, is that they come in a very tall glass container, so you can warm them really easily. And then when you melt them, obviously, you can get a really high volume without losing the wax, because like a pillar candle, it just drips, and then you lose what you wanted. So those are, I know, really popular with pretty much everybody that I know who likes to play with wax. They also burn at a temperature that is acceptable for most people.
Yeah. I would even say it's lower than a lot of things.
Yeah, they're just really not that hot, so you can kind of layer them with other things, and they're really, really cheap most of the time.
Good for
How about the paraffin bath you can get from Goodwill?
Yes, I have one of those that I got from Goodwill for like $3, and the paraffin you buy in the canning section at Walmart or wherever your grocery store is, and you can get like, 6 blocks of straight paraffin for a few bucks. And that melts down, and as long as you have a ladle, if you have a ladle in your kitchen, you can make one your wax ladle, because it does kind of get stuck on there, and I don't like to clean it off, so it's just my wax ladle. And you can reach down in there, and you have a huge volume of wax. Your skin is really soft after, and it's fun.
Oh yeah, it's almost like a spa treatment.
Oh yes. Yeah, it is. That's the best part of it. Feels good, and you're relaxed.
And it's nice and cool. It's not like it's incredibly hot.
Yeah, and it's kind of a sneaky pervertible, because if somebody sees it in your house, you're like, oh, it's my paraffin bath, and look, I give myself manicures with it. It's totally, totally sneaky.
So I'm trying to think of some of the other things. I remember there was a nurse that I knew that they have those like disposable tourniquets. They're just, like a strip of rubber.
Oh, ow!
And they kept, like, throwing them in their pocket. Like, at the end of the day, they'd have 4 or 5 of them because they pick up a new one, and then they just don't throw them away. There's like, so when they're with their scrubs, and they've got, like, handfuls of these, and then the handfuls turn into piles, and then it was like, what could I do with these? They ended up making tourniquet floggers out of them, and they're like these little rubber things, and they just kind of bunched them up together and wrap one around for the handle with a little ring on the end so you can hang it up or something. And for them, that was free because it's a workplace supply, I guess. But I thought it was a pretty creative thing. I know a dentist did the same thing. There was some kind of tubing that he had like shitloads of, or was disposable or not reusable, and he was just collecting that, and he was making toys out of that. So I don't know. There's a certain pleasure and a certain pride that people have when they are showing you these things, and when they're
Oh yeah.
looking in their toy bag. And I say they because I'm not really big into this. I'm not one of those people. I have a few in my toy bag and stuff, but I'm not one of those crafty people who thinks in terms. When I'm at the hardware store, I'm usually looking for something that to actually like replace the handle on my toilet. I'm not looking around there at the wide possibilities of what I can do. Every now and then you'd be like, hey, that's a cool new clasp. I could use a few of those in my bag or something.
Yeah.
My
But
favorite toy in my toy bag is actually a pervertible. It's actually, I call them my dogs. They're actually a self-defense keychain. And they are great for sensation play.
We purchased, after going to a event with classes, DeWalt's compression clamps.
yeah.
They're quite evil but fun. I use them for actually crafting stuff, but they work for other uses.
Right. And when they use the term balls in a vice, is that what they're...
I have witnessed that. It was very interesting to watch. Grateful that it wasn't me.
I love the culture, and these folks that are really into crafting. There's a certain lens that they're looking at the rest of the world through that I don't always see. And they're always picking up these great things and showing people. And I think it's really cool. What I hate to see, though, is I hate to see, folks getting snobby about it. Like, well, you should see my toy bag, and I have, bullwhips from Australia, and I have, whatever special things. I mean, it's great to have some really high craftsmanship, purpose-built toys in your bag, but I think you're missing out if you don't at least think outside of the box a little bit, right?
I mean, it's how you use what you have. It truly is. And we've had scenes that go great with the weird stuff, and we've had scenes that go horrible with the weird stuff. It's just, I call it weird, the pervertibles. But it's just how you use it and find what works for you.
And I think like when I'm thinking of this sort of toy bag snobbery, I don't see a lot of it, but there are some people that are definitely like, oh, well, how about we use my toy bag instead, because all you have is a bunch of junk that you picked up at the dollar store. I think they're kind of selling themselves short there a little bit, but I'm always of the opinion that I don't really need a toy bag to play to begin with. I carry a lot of things around with me everywhere that I go that I can have a good scene without anything. So anything after that is just kind of frosting, if you ask me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm in a couple of author groups on Facebook, and somebody had posted a picture of people playing with handcuffs, and they're going, but what if you lost the key? And I'm like, seriously? How easy is it to get some handcuff keys? Like,
we have extras.
My husband had a dozen around the house.
Every keyring, every extra junk drawer has one in it, just in case.
You plant handcuff keys around the house?
We don't want to be those people that we have to call police officers. Yeah. Hey, so-and-so. Actually, I do know a couple of EMTs that would call way before the police to have them come with the key. But it's just like, you don't want to be those people. I'm like, no.
Well, I'm pretty sure you have enough kinky friends that have a handcuff key that you could go to first.
No,
I would hope. At this point, yes.
And how easy are they to get?
Really easy.
I want to see you with your hands cuffed behind your back trying to get into the junk drawer and find the key. That's
what he's for. We don't handcuff everybody in the room. It's only one of us.
It's a good practice.
Yeah, and I always have that vision of like, someone like bound and helpless with the handcuff, and maybe the key. It's like and they're dressed as Wonder Woman, and then the guy's dressed like Batman, and he like trips and hits his head on the bedpost, and passes out or something, and then she's stuck there with no key. It's just a funny image that I always have in my head. I think I read some news article that was like that, some really embarrassing. It was some kind of role play. I don't know if it was.
Oh yeah, it happens. I don't know why it happens, but apparently it does happen. Have backups.
So I think we pretty much wrapped up on the pervertibles. We did just get a question that was submitted, or rather a comment, and I think it's a pretty cool little idea. This guy says, I played a game with partners where we each go into a room with a sheet of paper and pen and made a list each of the items in the room that we would use for play and how it would be used.
That's awesome.
That's fun.
That's such a good idea.
So it's almost like a little scavenger hunt kind of thing that you do. You're looking around like, I could use this lid to the candle and make it into something.
Take off your flip-flop.
We'll call it the MacGyver game, you know.
Yeah.
You know, I got a paper clip and a rubber band. Go. What are you going to do?
Oh, ow.
Maybe that's too easy, but it'll be like a marshmallow, a paper clip, and a spool of thread. All right.
I know a few of those.
Well, thanks everybody. Good conversation. I hope the audience got a little something out of it. I think the idea here that we kind of got across is that you don't have to invest a whole lot for good, fun, useful toys.
No.
And it's a really great outlet for crafty and creative types.
Mm-hmm.
So thanks everybody. Let us close this one up, and then we will move on to our next topic, which is service to the community. So let's talk about service to the community a little bit. I know that a lot of times in what it is that we do, we talk a lot about service. We talk about service to other people. I'm in service to this person. I'm, being considered for service with that person. This is my service to them. It's very, specific things between people. And service to the community is something that I see sort of inspired in some people, but not necessarily in others. And that's okay, because it's kind of like, to me, it's kind of like church. Okay, there are people that will volunteer to replace the little booklets on the pews when church is over. They don't get paid for that. It's a little bit of their time. There are people that will come in and vacuum on the weekend. There are people that will bake cookies for the bake sale that they're doing. People that are involved. And then there are people that show up on Sunday, go to service, and then go home. Mm-hmm. And I don't see any problem with either of those things. But what is it that inspires people to serve in the community, whether it's in a BDSM group or church or other, sort of fraternal organization like that? Does anybody have any good ideas?
If you don't, then somebody has to, and if nobody does, then it won't exist anymore.
Yeah, there is sort of a collective thing where, like, this has to be done, and if nobody were willing to do it, then we wouldn't have this cool thing. Mm-hmm. So kind of look at it like that. Like, I'm going to do my part or chip in or something like that because I value what we have here, and I want to see it continue.
Yeah, and I think communities are very much a labor of love most of the time. They're not typically run by a board that is paid and has fundraisers, and it's not like that. The communities that you have, and this is the best and worst part, right, of any small scale community, is that it's really made up of the effort of the people that comprise that group. So I think what motivates a lot of people that I know to want to serve their community has a lot to do with improving the environment of the community just by being a part of it. But then also it's kind of a pay it forward thing. Like, I know that, we're saying that if, you don't make it, nobody else will, but it's almost like they feel a sense of duty to do it because the community served them when they found it. And, you leave it better than it was when you did find it by giving parts of your time or your creativity or whatever it is that you want to do, whatever your definition of service is. But I feel kind of duty bound. I'm kind of with them.
Right. So it's more of like a pay it back kind of thing.
Yeah.
That there were people that gave of themselves to you, so you sort of continue that. And when I'm talking about service, I mean, let's be clear, because there are people that are very clearly in service to their community, and whether it's because they organize and host and make preparations for fun events and things like that to go on. Those people are in service to the community in a very visible way. Like myself, I host the Munch, It's a responsibility of mine. If I don't do it, I need to find somebody who will, because it, you know, it has to go on. and that's something that I don't get paid for. I don't, you know, I volunteer my time. I enjoy doing it. It's not like a hardship or anything, and that's one of the things that I think we can talk about when we're talking about serving the community, how much there is in it for you. It's not strictly just a giving back kind of thing, but there's also a payoff that sometimes comes with it too. But my original point was that there are people that are in service to the community in less visible ways. So, for instance, you know, reaching out to somebody, you know, that new person at the event and showing them something new, you know, or teaching them something, or just talking to them and making them feel welcome. That is a service to the community. And I think a lot of people do serve the community in small and less official or less visible ways. But you know, let's talk about some of those sort of acts of kindness and sort of smaller things, because Josie, you were talking about paying it forward. So what are some of those things that you do to sort of give back or that as a service to the community?
Oh my gosh. So I feel so strongly about this as a service to the community. Most people don't recognize it as such because it just seems like you're being a nice person. But sometimes it's kind of hard not to be a jerk to someone who's a jerk to you. But I do think that it's a service to my community. One of the things, so I like to reach out to new people if I see them at events and just go out of my way to try to be friendly and welcoming to those people, because building the diversity of the group, you know, it serves me because it gets more diverse people in the pool of people that I get to hang out with, which I like. But also it serves everybody else, and that it just makes for a fun time, right? The more the merrier, kind of a situation, and maybe they'll find some cool people, and you know, that's a good thing. I think also I tend to try to minimize my own drama in the interest of my community, because, you know, having a fight with people and gossiping and just generally kind of being a nasty person is bad for you personally, in my opinion, but it's also bad for your community. I don't try to bring that anywhere near my group, and I can't speak for everybody around me, but if I can control that on my side, I'm certainly going to control that in the interest of a group.
Or if you can help sort of, you know, mediate that, or
yeah,
you know, soften it or something.
Yeah, or influence somebody else to be like, hey, is it really that big of a deal? Maybe just let it go. Maybe just not. Maybe don't do that here at this community event. Maybe keep it in private. Stuff like that, I think, is a tremendous service to community. And there's evidence of that, too, because sometimes you do go into someone else's community and you're like, I don't know, it just doesn't feel right. And I think a lot of the times it happens to be most apparent around people that bring that with them into a community. And I think also I try to go out of my way to I don't know, I try to give what I can to the people around me, whether that's making polite conversation with a shy person, or like, you know, suggesting something stupid to do at an event, or just whatever I can do to be like a social lubricant, or like a buddy. A what?
A catalyst.
Catalyst. I love that.
Yeah, I think that is just such a tremendous service. It doesn't take a whole lot, you know, besides a little bit of thought and kind of being present when you're around people, and not all the time. It's hard to be on like that all the time. I know I struggle with that sometimes. You can get fatigued from it, but when you can, I think it's just such a tremendous service to the people around you. And I have found it doesn't typically go unnoticed. Most of the time when you do these things, someone reaches out to you and tells you, and that makes you feel good that you supported your community. But it always feels nice when somebody notices it too, like you had a positive impact on their experience personally.
Well, and pretty much everybody in this room I know has volunteered for something, put themselves out there to pitch in. I think that, you know, so I was saying a little bit about the payoff, and Josie, you were saying that, you know, the more, I don't know, the more people there are. I mean, the way at the newcomers meeting, I'm telling people, like, look, you think you're going to be outsiders coming in here, but the truth is we love the newcomers. Please bring us some more people, because the reason why we gather together is so that we can be around people who are more like us.
Yeah.
This is it's fellowship at its finest, where we can just say, you know, these people get me a little bit more than my coworkers and my family and some of the other people that I have around in my life. This is something that I can feel at home with this part of my life, etc. And the more people that you have, the more fellowship you have, and the more better everything seems to be. So, you know, we want you to feel welcome, and we want you to stay and find a home and find a place, and helping to, you know, to be the catalyst for growing a community like that, not just for the community, but for that person who came in and is not really sure whether they found a home or not. If you can make it a little bit more homey, then I think you've done the community and that person a service.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
Yeah. I mean, in a community, your reputation matters a lot.
Yes.
I mean, that's the truth of it. There's a culture that comes with every community. They are not all the same. And there are little sub-communities within larger kink communities. There's, you know, like a little pet community within the kinky group, or there's a group of littles, or there's a, you know, a master-slave group. And each of those are kind of subsets of the larger group. But there tends to be a culture to a group. And I think a lot of times when you think about service, I would think there are some things you get immediate results from. You know, you DM'd for a shift at your party, which I highly recommend as a thing if you're in your ability to do so. Any amount of time is always helpful. You get a direct result from that. But the indirect result of all these other things is that you contribute to that culture, and you know, that's a huge thing. And also, it ends up paying you back. It's kind of a selfish motivation, honestly, because you're shaping the culture of the group that you want to be a part of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think volunteerism, you know, when we're talking about, you know, these larger events, usually they have some kind of volunteer scholarship. They'll give you a discount on your ticket if you agree to volunteer a certain amount of time. And I say, you know, well, the discount's great, you know, and even at our dungeon space, I pay people for their volunteerism. They say, hey, you want me to run the registration for an hour? Sure. I mean, I pay them peanuts, really. It's not even minimum wage. But that's not why they're doing it. Why they're doing it is because they feel like this is something that they can offer to the community. And isn't it great to be that person that everyone, you know, if you don't know a lot of people, what better place than at the front door that everybody passes by they have to talk to you. You know, you can meet an awful lot of people and show people your, I don't know, community spirit, for lack of a better, your willingness to give of yourself to the community. That is important, you know, to some people. But you'll make a lot of friends. You'll have fun actually doing the work. Now I'm saying, like, you know, some people like don't want to interact with people, and I understand that. They don't want to be the person greeting everybody as they come in. They would rather scrub the toilets after the party. And I'm like, well, that's a shit job. That are you sure? And it's like, yes, that's what they want to do. That's what they're better suited for. Whether it's socially, or they just know that it's something that needs doing, or to take the garbage out or something like that. And I think that it's, you know, I can always tell, because, you know, when we're at a munch, for instance, and a whole bunch of people start walking in, and we realize, oh, we're out of chairs. We're running out of space. We need some more. There are people who look up and say, you know, oh, it's crowded in here, and don't really think past that. And then there are people that are like, should I go get some more chairs? Would you like me to, you know, what can, and then there are people just like, what can I do? What can I do to help? And for someone like me who's organizing a thing like that, that's gold. You know, that is amazing when somebody's just like, just tell me what you need. And you can kind of tell that there are people that are there to sort of use the community, and I equate those to sort of the churchgoers who come and sit in service and then go home. And then there are people who do extra.
See, I kind of disagree. I think that I kind of compare going into my community like going to church, and the other people like the people that only go on Christmas. those are the ones who really don't contribute to the community. They come and they get absolved and then they go.
Okay.
And all of those of us who come kind of regularly and participate, it's kind of like when you go to church and you're growing up and your mom's like, now be on your best behavior, we're going to church. Like, it's one of those places that you just pay more attention to your own behavior and you pay more attention to, like, you wear your nice clothes and you get dressed up. Like, it's kind of festive and it is kind of your people and you do learn a lot from them. You get a lot from your church community and
Well, I guess my experience growing up Catholic is probably a little different because I know that church communities are warm pools to soak in for a little while. Okay, I know that my experience, which was basically if you're not one of those people who are part of the doers, the people that volunteer, of course, then the Catholic Church has money. So they like pay cleaning people to come in and do that stuff. It's not like if you didn't help, the place would go under and you'd have no church to go to. It's a little bit different. And most of the time, the people that go really do just the bare minimum. Now, I think, Josie, maybe what you're getting at is that their presence there is valuable for enriching the community, whether they offer anything or not. It's the people that almost never show up that aren't really contributing.
Well, I think even with that, there are those of us that would love to be there and would love to help more, but life happens, and we are adults outside of our community as well, so.
Yeah, but I don't think anybody's saying that you shouldn't, like, I'm not saying that I value people in the community more who come every day and volunteer. Your volunteerism can become oppressive if you are too aggressive about it. It's not like that. It's more like if you're there, it's nice to volunteer. Or if you've been there before and somebody is asking about the place or the community and you have something nice to say about it, that's a service. So I don't really think it's quantity, it's quality.
And let me say, if you drink the last bit of coffee out of the coffee pot, fucking make some more.
Or find a volunteer who knows how, and they'll do it for you.
Yeah, if you don't know how to make coffee, then I think you probably shouldn't be drinking the coffee. But no, it's those little things like that I'm talking about. It's a small thing. Some people will just say, well, it's empty. Somebody better refill this. And some people will say, all right, emptied the coffee, so what do I do now? Like, do I need to do this? Does someone else need to do this? It's different kind of people. And I'm not saying that one's more valuable to the community than the other. It's like it is perfectly okay to come and show up and be a part of the community and not volunteer, not volunteer to be to do services in the community. That's perfectly fine. But the longevity of the community depends on at least some people to do that. And I think that if you're one of those folks that pays their money to go to an event and attends the classes and leaves and doesn't pitch in, volunteer, or otherwise contribute, I think that's okay. I mean, first of all, you paid your money, and second, I think that I forgot my second point.
Well, you're still contributing, though. You don't have to be volunteering. You could be contributing to the environment by not shoving the person next to you or being a douchebag in general.
Right. And my point was, to be one of those people, that's perfectly fine. You're welcome in the community, and you're going to have a great time at the event, and we're glad that you're there and all those things. But it would be nice if you thank the person for refilling the coffee pot when they took the last little bit, or to say, I know that while everybody else is playing, you're stuck here being a GM. That's cool of you. Like, thanks for stepping up. It is nice to, if you're not going to be one of those folks who does services for the community, it's nice that you recognize the people who do.
Absolutely.
So, can service? I don't know. It's kind of a strange thing because I feel like some folks in the community that volunteer for different, whether it's to volunteer at the desk or to sweep the floor or take out the garbage. Sometimes that is fulfilling some kind of like innate need. You know, there are people that are submissive to other people, and then there are people that are submissive kind of in general. And sometimes I get those offers like, you know, if you give me a key to the place, I'll come and, you know, clean the whole place, you know, or I'll stay after and clean up all the stuff so that the wait staff doesn't have to or something. And it's like this desire, I guess, and I don't think it's really like to publicly show their stuff and what a good servant they are and how available they are for the right dominant, but it's not just because it does nice things for them. It's sort of like a selfless service and something that is in line with their nature. You know, it sort of feeds them to be of service to the community. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm one of those people.
You're one of those people?
Like, I like being told, hey, will you do this? I have no problem doing that. But for me, it's hard for me to ask sometimes. And most of the time when I'm volunteering, it's because someone's like, hey, will you do this? And I'm good with that. It's less intimidating because I don't like being told no. Or I don't need you. No one wants to feel unneeded. So I can go from that perspective.
Well, I don't think volunteering would necessarily always be with time or even money. Like, I have a vast library of erotic novels that I've been collecting since I was a teenager, and we have a library. You know, I don't read most of them every day, and other people can get to enjoy some of them, you know.
Sure. So you donate those, and that's, you know, part of your contribution to the community. That you're paying it forward with these books that other people might be able to read, enjoy, or even learn something from. Yeah? Excellent.
I don't have any problem with people who do that. I mean, I don't think the motivation matters a lot when, you know, if the floor needs to be swept and the desk needs to be run. I don't really need to know why you're doing it. You know, it's kind of like if you're a service-oriented person and you don't have a person to aim that service at, but you need to scratch the itch, it's kind of like thinking of the community or the munch group as your boyfriend.
Right.
Which, you know, actually might make you feel less lonely. It's a good outlet. What I would probably caution people of, or what I have found that kind of rubs me the wrong way sometimes, and that may be because my partner runs a community, I don't like it when people get really possessive that way. So the community can be your boyfriend, but he's also everybody's boyfriend, so you have to share. So you can, like, don't fight somebody. There are people that get, like, really, really big about, like, taking out the trash and, like, making the coffee, and you don't want to serve so much to your community that you, like, prevent other people from also doing their share. 'Cause then, you know, it feels a little alienating, like you just didn't let me help too, and I want to do my part, and so, you know, make the community your boyfriend, but share. Just be mindful of that motivation, because it can come off the wrong way when it's really clear that you're doing that.
I agree. You know, and sometimes it's like, you know, really, we're fine. We got this. Yeah, and then
Yeah.
it's like
Aggressively helpful right now.
and that's cool. I mean, I always appreciate the offer when somebody is offering to volunteer, but I am, you know, those are like the visible things, the things that people see you do, the things that, and sometimes the motivation people have is for some kind of recognition. And I would say that's not a very good reason, because you're probably not going to get any. It's kind of thankless, but it is fulfilling in a way. I'm more focused on these small acts of service to the community that I really like to see. And just because I like host the munch doesn't mean that I shouldn't be doing those small things too. Here's a great service to the community that some people don't always necessarily think of as serving the community, and that is being an ambassador. Being an ambassador, I know that some folks have other let's say, related interest or groups of friends or things like that. We just saw it yesterday at the newcomers meeting. You know, there was one person who came to the community and they went back to their friends and said, hey, I found this group and I think we all might belong there. Like, let's go and check it out. And that person was sort of the ambassador to, you know, bring them into the group. And sometimes it's you know, it's another group that you participate in, or another, let's say, subculture that you participate in, that you make positive efforts to include those people. I think that can be a great service both to the community and to the people that you're ambassadoring, if that's a word.
Definitely.
So when someone says, you know, we've had like there was a girl that was coming by years ago that came from a trans group, a social group for trans people, and they were like a great ambassador. Like, here's this group, we're all a little bit curious, or some of us are super interested, some of us do this like as a matter of course. There is another group, and hey, I've been there. They welcome us, and I'll be there, and it's cool. And then suddenly we, you know, had this really cool diversity to the group that was lacking in that particular way at the time, and it made our community a better place for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you could be an ambassador to other groups too. Like, you know, I am active in my local communities, but I don't live in the cities that all my communities are in. I live in one of those cities, but when I'm at another place, you know, I consider myself an ambassador of my space, so that's another reason to mind my behavior. But also, if those people are saying, like, you know, we only do parties once a month, you know, we'd really love to get involved with more stuff, you know, let them know some of the cool stuff that you're doing. I wouldn't super recommend like soliciting other people's communities or parties. That tends to look kind of telemarketery. And you certainly don't want to kite from somebody's event. Like, while you're at the event, do not start talking about how much better this other event or community is. That just makes you look like an asshole. And usually it's an accident, but, you know, it's not a good idea. But, like, consider yourself an ambassador that way, too. Absolutely. And
Yeah,
I think
because
that
I've
can be
seen
really
people
fun to mix them together.
at our newcomers meeting. You either need to be new to the community, or you need to be accompanying somebody who's new to the community. And I've seen that a lot, and it's a really cool thing that I've noticed, that people go out of their way to say, I have a friend that's interested, they would be more comfortable if I were there, or maybe they won't come alone. So I'm going to give of my time to sit here with you in the newcomers meeting and help sort of orient them and make them comfortable and basically roll the carpet for their way into the community. That's perfect. And it is, it's not very visible, and it's certainly thankless, but it's gold. It's great stuff. And I really admire people who do that, especially those folks that, you know, these people, sometimes they don't even really know them that well. Sometimes it's like their sister or something, and that's cool. But, you know, for somebody to find us, or to see maybe if they'll find a home with us, they gave of their time to do that. Any further comments? Service to the community, rewards, benefits, drawbacks. The only thing that I would add, Josie, to your thing, like this aggressive service thing, is that you can kind of burn out on it. If you're not prepared, or I guess if you go in it with the expectation of accolades or pats on the back or recognition of some kind, you're not always going to get it, and sometimes that gets frustrating for people. But they didn't realize that, you know, the right reasons for being in service to the community or doing services for the community, that you may not, if you're not going to feel the rewards that you thought you were going to get, that's fine. You can back that up, you know, but it can burn out a little bit, especially when it starts getting in the way of your life, where you're just like, I know I should be doing this, but I'm going to go to this place because they need me. You know, they need me to do this. No, we'll cover it. We'll find someone else. It's cool. You should go to work instead.
Yes.
And keep your job. We'd like you to keep your job.
That's good. Yeah.
But
It's important, and
you
it is
have,
hard.
yeah.
It's hard.
So you have to, measure that and how much really you can give and your life circumstances and so forth, and find that balance there, I think. Anyone else have anything to add, or are we done?
Nothing.
I would probably add, like, I think that, and I've said this before, when with community, since we teach everybody there's no one right way. It basically means everybody is an expert to themselves, and they're all in the process of learning, and they're all like, we're all individual experts, and so it seems really easy for people to forget that they were new like 3 months ago. Like, you've been around for 6 weeks, and now you're like, I'm an expert here. I know everybody because your community was so nice to you that they, welcomed you with open arms, and you forget you've been around for less than a year. You're not an old pro. You were new really really recently. So when you think about, like, why should I give back, or like, I don't know why you think service is important to your community. Well, I think you should probably think about that. Like, think about when you were new. Was somebody nice to you? Was there always coffee that was warm? Was there a DM there? Was there a party being thrown? Those things don't happen by accident. They are all acts of service by everybody around you. So, like, when people say that, service, I'm not a bottom, so I can't serve my community, or, I don't have the time or the money, or any of those things. I just always think back to when I was new and the people that, directly and indirectly just made my experience something that was just like magic. It just like changed my whole world. And that wasn't that long ago. I just like keeping that perspective, I think, always rings bells in my head when people talk about service to my community. And it's probably why I'm so passionate about it, because 6 years down the road, I still remember when I was a brand new person. I still remember the individual people who made the beginning of my experience really, really special. So.
Well said. Thank you, everybody. That will do it for this episode of the Kink Tank. We will see you in a couple of weeks with a couple more topics. Thanks to the viewers who submitted questions and those who tuned in just to watch us. Appreciate it. Have a good night. We'll see you in a little while.